There's a power within you that society doesn't want you to know. An energy so potent that, when mastered, it transforms not only your body, but your presence, your mind, your ability to magnetize opportunities and people. This force isn't mystical or esoteric. It's biological, psychological, and spiritual. It's sexual energy. And what you do with it determines whether you'll be an ordinary or extraordinary man. Why do you think history's great leaders, geniuses, visionaries, had something different in their eyes? Why did Napoleon Hill, after studying over 500 successful men, identify sexual transmutation as the best-kept secret of giants? Because they discovered something you can discover now, that the energy that creates life can create realities. But before we embark on this transformative journey, observe your life for a moment. How many times have you felt drained after sexual release? How many times have you noticed your motivation, willpower, and presence diminish after squandering this vital energy? Have you ever noticed how some men enter a room and instantly command attention, respect, admiration, while others go unnoticed invisibly? The difference isn't in physique, money, or social status. The difference lies in the energy they carry. It's a magnetic presence, an intensity in the eyes, an inner strength that can't be fake, because it emanates from a source far deeper than superficial personality. It comes from the conscious transmutation of sexual energy. Modern society has turned you into an addict, not just to drugs, alcohol, or food, but to something far more subtle and devastating, the constant depletion of your most precious energy. Since adolescence, you've been conditioned to believe that masturbation is natural, that constant sexual release is healthy, that suppressing your urges is dangerous. And so, without realizing it, you've developed an addiction that drains your vitality, your creativity, your magnetism, your ability to achieve your dreams. But Napoleon Hill discovered something revolutionary when studying the most successful men of his time. He realized they all had developed conscious control over their sexual energy, not repression. That would be another unhealthy extreme, but transmutation. They had learned to channel this primal force toward higher purposes, creating wealth, developing brilliant ideas, building empires, leading masses. This is the alchemy the ancients knew and modernity forgot. The sexual fire doesn't need to be extinguished or wasted. It can be transmuted, refined, directed to fuel your ambition, your mental clarity, your magnetic presence. When you retain your vital essence, you're not denying your nature, you're elevating it to a higher level. Imagine your sexual energy as a powerful river. Most men allow this river to constantly waste itself in the ocean of immediate gratification. But the conscious man builds a dam. He accumulates this force and then strategically directs it to irrigate the fields of his life, his business, his creativity, his relationships, his personal growth. The result is extraordinary. Your mind becomes sharper, your intuition more acute, your ability to focus multiplies. You develop a presence that people feel before you even speak. There's an intensity in your eyes, a confidence in your movements, a natural authority in your voice. This isn't arrogance, it's integrated power. But this path isn't for the faint of heart. It requires you to confront your shadow, your vices, your unconscious patterns. It demands that you cease being a slave to your impulses and become the master of your energy. It's a warrior's journey. because you'll be fighting against decades of conditioning, against a society that profits from your weakness, against your own mind programmed for instant gratification. The first battle takes place in your mind. You need to understand that each time you waste your vital essence through compulsive masturbation or empty sex, you're not just losing bodily fluids. You're dispersing your life force, your creative capacity, your magnetic energy. The ancient Taoists called this essence Yin, the primordial energy that sustains your vitality and longevity. The Hindus know it as Ojas, the energetic substrate that fuels your personal brilliance and spiritual power. When you retain this energy, something magical happens. First, you notice a restlessness, a growing intensity. Your mind becomes more alert, your senses sharper. You feel an inner force building up, like pressure in a pot. This is sexual energy, being transmuted into vital force. In the early days, you may feel frustration, irritability, a creative tension. This is normal. Your energy is seeking new channels of expression. This is where the magic begins. Instead of releasing this tension through orgasm, you redirect it to your projects, your studies, your workouts, your goals. You'll discover you have more energy to work, more creativity to solve problems, more charisma to influence people. But be warned, this isn't a path of neurotic repression. You're not denying your sexuality. You're refining it. When you make love consciously, when you genuinely connect with a partner, when you use your sexual energy to create deep intimacy, and not just to release tension, you experience a completely different quality of pleasure and connection. Conscious retention of sexual energy awakens dormant tabors in your psyche. Your intuition develops, your ability to read people and situations improves, your presence becomes magnetic, you begin to attract opportunities, influential people, synchronicities that previously seemed like impossible coincidences. Napoleon Hill observed that the most successful men developed what he called personal magnetism, an indefinable quality that drew others to them. This magnetism didn't come from superficial charm or persuasion techniques. It came from transmuted sexual energy. It was nature's creative force expressing itself through a developed personality. Think of the great leaders, artists, and entrepreneurs you admire. There's something different about them, isn't there? An intensity, a presence, a command that goes beyond what they say or do. They radiate power because they've learned to channel their primal energy towards higher purposes. But this knowledge is dangerous to a system that profits from your weakness, a society of men conscious of their sexual power, able to transmute it into creative and fulfilling force, would be impossible to control. That's why you've been conditioned from a young age to waste this energy, to see it as something shameful that needs constant release. The pornography industry, the hypersexualization of culture, the normalization of compulsive masturbation, all of this serves to drain your vital energy, keep you weak, dependent, and easily manipulated. A man who masters his sexual energy is a man who masters his life. Now, before we continue this journey of awakening, you need to make an invitation. If this message resonates with you, if you feel there's something deeper here than just concepts, if you want to continue exploring these teachings that can completely transform your life, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Why? Because what you're discovering here is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole body of knowledge on sexual transmutation, masculine development, and personal power awakening that can revolutionize your reality. But this knowledge needs to be delivered gradually, in depth, with practical examples and specific techniques. By subscribing, you gain access to an education that no school, university, or traditional course will give you. You become part of a community of men committed to excellence, self-mastery, and the transmutation of their lower potential into higher power. Do it now, because your transformation depends on the continuity and depth of these teachings. Returning to our journey, semen retention isn't just a physical practice. It's a portal to deeper dimensions of your masculinity. When you stop wasting your vital essence, you begin to accumulate not only physical energy but psychic strength, magnetic presence, and creative power. The first signs of this transformation are subtle but profound. You wake up with more energy, your mind is clearer, your emotions more balanced. You notice your voice gains more authority, your gestures more confidence, your gaze more intensity. People begin to respond differently to you, even without understanding why. This happens because you're emanating a different energetic frequency. The retained and transmuted sexual energy creates a magnetic field around you. You become more present, more centered, more here and now. People sense this unconsciously and are drawn to this authentic presence. But the real magic happens in your relationship with your goals and dreams. That energy that was once wasted on momentary gratification now fuels your ambition, your persistence, your ability to visualize and manifest the realities. You discovered you have more willpower to pursue difficult goals, more resilience to overcome obstacles, more creativity to find innovative solutions. Napoleon Hill called this transmuted sexual energy, the conversion of sexual energy, the conversion of sexual impulse into creative and fulfilling drive. He discovered that the most successful men didn't deny their sexuality, but consciously channeled it into their projects and ambitions. They use the same force that creates life to create fortunes, companies, works of art, and social movements. This is the difference between the ordinary man and the extraordinary. The ordinary is a slave to his impulses. He feels desire and immediately seeks gratification. The extraordinary is a master of his energy. He feels the impulse, recognizes its power, and consciously redirects it to higher purposes. But beware, this path awakens powerful forces in your psyche. You may experience more vivid dreams, sharper intuitions, and more frequent synchronicities. Your sensitivity increases. You perceive subtleties in people and situations that previously went unnoticed. Your ability to influence others multiplies because you're operating from a place of integrated power. That's why this knowledge has always been reserved for the few. Sexual transmutation isn't just a self-development technique. It's an initiation into the mysteries of human energy. When you master your sexual force, you awaken dormant capacities, latent talents, and powers that most people don't even dream of possessing. Think of your sexual energy as premium, fuel for the engine of your life. Most men use this high-quality fuel for short, pointless trips, moments of pleasure that quickly fade, leaving them empty and unmotivated. But when you learn to use this premium fuel for long, meaningful journeys, building a career, developing talents, creating deep relationships, achieving dreams, your life transforms into an extraordinary adventure. Semen retention also awakens your connection to the sacred feminine. When you don't waste your masculine energy, you become a more powerful magnetic pole, capable of attracting and honoring feminine energy in a deeper and more respectful way. Your relationships become more intense, more intimate, more fulfilling, because you're not just seeking sexual relief, but genuine connection. There's also a spiritual dimension to this practice. Many mystical traditions recognize sexual energy as the creative force of the universe manifesting through the human being. When you retain and transmute this energy, you align yourself with the creative forces of existence. You become a conscious channel for expressing higher potentials. But perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of this practice is how it affects your relationship with fear. Sexual energy is courage in pure form. When you consciously accumulate and refine it, you develop a natural boldness, a willingness to take risks, an ability to face challenges that once seemed impossible. The fear of failure, rejection, and criticism diminishes drastically because you're operating from a deep reservoir of life force. This explains why men who practice conscious retention often report surprising breakthroughs in their careers, relationships, health, and personal growth. It's not external magic, it's internal power finally being accessed and directed with purpose. However, it's crucial to understand that this isn't a path of extremes. Neurotic retention, driven by guilt or fear, can be as detrimental as compulsive indulgence. True, sexual transmutation happens when you develop a conscious and balanced relationship with your energy, when you choose to retain it for specific purposes, when you use it to cultivate genuine intimacy, when you channel it to fuel your dreams and ambitions. The man who masters his sexual energy develops what the ancients called eagle vision, a sharp perception that sees through social masks, identifies hidden opportunities, recognizes untapped potential. His mind becomes like a high-precision lens, able to focus intensely on specific goals without being distracted by superficial stimuli. This mental clarity is reflected in his physical presence. You walk differently, talk differently, occupy space differently. There's an economy of movement, a precision in gestures, a natural authority that doesn't need to be forced because it emerges from a place of genuine power. And here's the most beautiful paradox. The more you master your sexual energy, the more sexually attractive you become. But it's a completely different kind of attraction. It's not the desperate attraction based on neediness, but the natural magnetism of someone who possesses something valuable and isn't willing to squander it easily. People sense this. They perceive that you're not like the others, that there's a substance, a depth, a presence that goes beyond the superficial. You become interesting not because of what you do or have, but because of who you are, someone who has transformed their primal force into refined power. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of inner alchemy that can take months or years to fully solidify. But the first results are immediate: more energy, more clarity, more presence, more magnetism. And as you progress on this journey, you discover increasingly deeper layers of personal power. You develop the ability to influence situations through your mere presence, to attract opportunities through your energetic field, to inspire others through your example of self-mastery. But perhaps the most important outcome is freedom. Freedom from compulsion, from dependence, from weakness. When you master your sexual energy, you become truly free, free to choose when, how, and with whom to share your life force, free to channel your energy towards purposes that truly matter, free to be the man you always knew you could be. This is the difference between living as a slave to your impulses or as a master of your energy. It's the difference between squandering your potential on fleeting gratifications or investing your life force in building an extraordinary life. The man who consciously retains his semen isn't repressing his nature, is refining it. He has understood that he possesses a force capable of creating life, and that this same force can create realities. He has become an alchemist of his own experience, transmuting lead into gold, impulse into purpose, desire into fulfillment. Are you ready for this transformation? Are you willing to cease being ordinary and become extraordinary? Do you have the courage to confront your vices, your patterns, your dependencies, to uncover the power that has always existed within you? The journey begins with a decision, the decision to stop squandering your most precious force and begin consciously investing it in creating the life you truly desire. It's the decision to stop being just another invisible man in the crowd and become someone whose presence is impossible to ignore. Because in the end, those who master their sexual energy don't just transform their own lives, they become beacons for other men, living examples that it's possible to transcend mediocrity, overcome weakness, and awaken the sleeping giant that dwells within each of us. This is your invitation to greatness. This is your opportunity to discover who you truly are when you stop squandering who you could be. The power is in your hands, literally. The question is, will you continue to waste it, or will you transform it into the force that will create the life of your dreams? The warrior awakens when he recognizes that his greatest battle is not external, but internal. And victory in this battle is not measured by what you conquer, but by who you become in the process. Become the man whose presence is impossible to ignore, because you have learned to honor and transmute the force that moves the universe through you.